All right.
We're live?
According to YouTube, we're live.
Okay.
Hello. Welcome.
Welcome to another episode of Make Now Think Later.
I'm Ben,
I'm Francis.
and I don't think we've done this before, actually. We just roll straight into an intro.
Yeah. No, we're professionals.
That's it. It's second nature.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, for the first time listeners here, we like to talk about content, behind the scenes of content. I've been lucky enough to build a bit of a following, and Francis is doing the same on his end.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we love talking about this stuff, getting nitty gritty.
Yeah, the behind the scenes, the numbers, the feelings, everything.
Everything.
Yeah, we want to be completely transparent.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like a bloody, what's transparent? Cellophane.
Cellophane.
Yeah.
I guess so. With a tent.
With a tent. Oh, cool, man. So what's been going on?
Well, I guess for us, the big news is that we've worked on a plugin, which was, I guess, kind of out of left field, but it's happened.
It was bloody good fun. Just doing something. I wanted something. I started hacking away at it, got it to like a working-ish kind of level, and said, hey, what do you reckon about this? And he was like, oh, this is a good problem. I was like, all right, you want to go halvesies on this one? And we're like, yep, let's do it. And then Francis made it shit hot, and it's awesome. So it's called Filthy.
Oh, filthy name.
Filthy.
That's 2 L's for anyone.
Filthy. So it's like an autofill for anyone using Photoshop. It's like an autofill, like a selection autofill plugin that does a bunch of other things that personally I really wanted to do in Photoshop, like automatic hue shifts. And for people that don't understand this, my apologies. Or like luminosity lock, which was kind of a lot harder to do than I initially thought it was going to be.
Yeah, there needed to be a little bit of color theory and maths and things like that to make that work.
Some fun stuff in there, which is wicked. And that's where Francis came in and just like hit it out the park. But yeah, launched it. We made a couple of $100 off of it.
Yeah,
kind of nuts.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's $10, and I think what's interesting about this project is that it aligns with this kind of small bets philosophy that we've both been kind of following for a while. And I don't know if it's the first, because I think you've had you kind of follow it a lot in, I guess, your content game.
Ish. The tutorial was a large small bet.
Well, like a medium bet.
Medium bet, yeah.
Yeah. But I guess, how would you describe the small bets philosophy? I guess it's something where you don't spend too much effort on something. You put it out quickly and you just try to get paid for it, like pretty quickly.
Yeah, but you also want the thing to be valuable. So I guess there's a large part of figuring out what that small bet's going to be. But also I think like having fun with it as well. Whatever it is, it feels more like a fun, not like other larger projects aren't fun, but it's just like a fun little tool thing. It could be you could even like funnel it into more like education side of things, e-product, any sort of online product essentially, whether it be software or what, that's sort of low effort to get out there. I mean, we could have technically probably launched it even earlier.
Oh yeah.
If we were going like super hardline with the small bets philosophy of like getting it done in like a week or two. I think we spent maybe like 3 weeks on it.
Did we? It feels like a long time.
Yeah. Maybe not full time though.
No.
No, that was just like sort of, it wouldn't even been maybe a week's full work.
There was a little bit of research, and then probably coding was maybe like a day or two.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
So it was cool, but it was a real need that I wanted.
Yeah.
There was a thing in Photoshop that I didn't want. No, that I wanted. It wasn't there. And just try to figure out and put it in there. So it's like, trying to find those little things that I think it makes sense as well if it's something that you have a problem with as well, or something that you want to solve. It makes it fun. It makes it really it decreases the risk. I guess the idea of the small bets thing is like to decrease the risk as much as you can, spread it out and sort of diversify your portfolio of small bets. And if you've got the problem yourself, that even sort of decreases that risk of time spent on it as well, because there's going to be at least a customer of one, and at the very least, you're going to use the thing. It's going to help you out in your day-to-day, right?
And what I like about it is that it's completable. You can kind of have an idea of what the finished state is.
Yep.
And you can get there within a couple of weeks.
Yep. Very defined parameters.
Yeah. It's not like the software product that we've been working on in the past, Keep On, where it's like, is this completable?
Yeah.
Yes, but maybe in like a long time.
Yeah.
Like a very long time frame.
Yeah.
So this is something that we've really narrowed down the scope of.
Yeah.
And it's basically in a final state.
More or less.
Yeah.
I can't, we're trying to think of things to put in it. It'll more be like cherry on top
Mm-hmm.
sort of things. Or as I start using it, that's what I'm just going to be using the living shit out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And just, is it working? What's not working? What would I like to have more? And da-da-da-da-da. It's just it just really helps out in my painting process. It's actually helped me with color theory as well, understanding certain things, because trying to figure out this luminosity lock kind of thing as well. I've got to realize this isn't like an art podcast, so I don't want to go too deep into it. But it's like if you choose different colors, like yellow, red, and blue, for example, blue, if you think of them as their pure color, they have different brightness levels. So then you can quickly sandbox and test a lot of color theory pretty quickly and lock different color variations and that kind of. It's just really fucking cool. I'm really happy with what we've sort of come out with. I love the name as well.
Filthy.
Yeah, we started with Shapeshifter, but then I didn't Google Shapeshifter, and there's already a Photoshop plugin called Shapeshifter. So we're last minute, frick. Yeah, it feels autofill, filthy.
The suggestion was Philo.
Philo, yeah.
It was a good name, but probably a bit too close to Filipino.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. That was your call. I was like, I don't know. Philo. Philly sound a little bit not. It's weird, like Philadelphia. Yeah, Philadelphia. But yeah, filthy is I don't know, it's kind of
I like
something you'd remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Gives you a little bit of the ick, but that's not but the way I feel it is oh yeah, these colours are filthy. This is good filthy.
The marketing writes itself.
That's it. It's right on OnlyFans.
But yeah, this comes back to this whole small bets philosophy, right? And if you want to get into kind of what I like about small bets is that it kind of comes from maths as to why it works. So the idea is from the Kelly criterion. This is very technical, but I will try my best to explain it.
Tell us about Kelly.
The Kelly criterion. It's basically if you have, let's say, you and I make a bet with you, and I say, okay, I'm going to flip this coin. And this is an unfair coin. So 55% of the time it's heads and 45% of the time it's tails.
Yep. How
much should you bet on heads, which is, the higher probability? And let's say you have $10. How much of that $10 should you bet so that you'll maximize your profit in the long run and not go bankrupt?
So it'll be lots of smaller bets, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So too small and you won't grow as much, but too high and then you'll lose all your money. Yeah. So there's kind of there's a maths answer which will give you the right amount to bet.
Yeah.
And it is quite small, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea is that if you don't want to go bankrupt over your time in terms of over your time living, because you can think of instead of money, is time as a resource also, right? So there's time and money. So you don't want to spend all your time on this one big bet where, you really have to do it in a way such that when you do your bets, you don't go bankrupt. So it's much better to have a smaller bets and then to have a portfolio of smaller bets because then you can kind of get the result in your lifetime.
Yep.
Because you can imagine if you're playing the lotto or the lottery, you might not win, even if there's a positive expectation on your reward, you might not win in your lifetime because the odds are so low, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of by having multiple smaller bets, there's a higher chance of maximizing the result happening in this lifetime.
Yep.
It's kind of like if you're in a casino, right? What are the chances of someone getting, let's say, you're playing roulette and then someone getting double. Is it 0-0? The one that's like like 0-0,
0 and 0-0.
Yeah, so you can bet on like one of those, right? And there's like a 1 in whatever chance.
Yep.
What's the chance of you getting that in the casino if you play like once, right? It's going to be 1 in whatever.
Yeah.
But what's the chance for the casino? See how many people go through the casino. It's like guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
Guaranteed that someone will win that.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you can find a way to maximize the number of bets and make the bet small, then you have a higher chance of succeeding in your lifetime. And these ideas come from the Keller criterion. Nicholas Taleb talks about it in his books. I think he talks about it in Anti-Fragile. And kind of a more recent person that's been talking about it is Daniel Fasalo, who we both follow. And he really loves talking about this small bet stuff. And one of the ways he kind of likens it to is, you think about VCs or venture capitalists and how they make money. They just get a lot of bets. So they have a higher chance of succeeding in their payoff because they just have so many bets spread across so many different companies. But if you're one of those companies, you don't have the same probability of success as the VC does for his whole thing because he has his bets spread.
Yeah.
But you're all in on one.
Yeah.
So you there's a chance that you won't make it in your lifetime to have success.
Yeah.
So it's like, but then there are people who do make it and then they have huge success, but that might not happen in this lifetime.
Yep.
So it's just like, how can you, if you're trying to make it in the content game, business game, how can you make it more likely that you're going to make it in this lifetime? I think that's kind of the big thing.
And that's a great point. Like even in the content game, we've just released a product, but I'm doing that with content consistently. Different, like trying different things out. Low risk. What's my small bet of content? I guess you could say even like Twitter. Trying Twitter, shorts, stories, sorry. That'd be even like the micro bet, you could almost say. Trying stories out, different things, low risk, low time input, and then, if it works, awesome, double down on that and then go for it. And then that's the thing, you don't have to stick with one of these things either. It's like, okay, if you like doing it and it ticked all the boxes and other people liked it, awesome, double down. Start mine in that vein and just keep sort of cracking on with that. It doesn't just have to be with products or software and I'm kind of almost doing it with my upcoming course where I'm going to be getting people in like a cohort of people versus like before doing the online version where it's not me live. That's kind of reducing that risk and that's kind of another small bet to see if people do sign up to that in the first place before I then go spend all the time in editing up all the videos and this and that kind of thing. So it's, it can be used in all sorts of areas. I love it. Like it just de-risks everything and it de-stresses you a little bit as well, I think. And it doesn't give you enough time to really worry too much about stuff, like you still, like, I think we still have the tendency of like, oh, you want to tweak this and you want to do that. And I guess as you grow and you try different things as well, those smaller bets might become like they're relative to you as well. Like as you're saying, a VC, like a venture capitalist small bet is freaking huge. Like it's like millions of dollars potentially at a time. It can scale up in content. It's like, all right, my small bet as I start to build it, if I do want to build like a team of content, it might be like, all right, I'll send a couple of people to just hammer shorts, reels, TikToks on this particular topic, or and then it doesn't have to all mean the same thing for everyone. It can sort of mean whatever that small bet means to you, even at like a micro level.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right because you're saying it's not just kind of the size of the bet in terms of monetary.
No.
Right, but there's also other aspects, right? There's also one, you don't know how much you would enjoy doing the thing. So that's another thing you find out when you're doing the bet. So it's not just time and money, it's enjoyment.
Yep.
And then there's also, you don't know, I gave the example earlier on about the coin where it's 55%, 45%. You don't know what the payoffs are yet.
Yep.
So because that's an unknown, you kind of have to make small bets so that you can get a better grasp of what the payoffs are going to be. And then as time goes on and then you discover, oh, my payoff for, doing a sketch note might be more like 80%, Now I can spend more time on that.
Yeah.
Because I'm much more certain through the process of experimentation
Yeah.
that this is something that will give me a higher payoff.
Yeah.
So it's just like you're able to navigate this sea of uncertainty, which is the content game.
Yep.
By thinking very, very small and then getting feedback from the environment by just putting stuff out there.
I love it. And I've had it happen in the past couple of weeks as well. Like we haven't done a podcast for a couple of weeks, but I've been doing experiments with like shorts where I would usually maybe even spend like a day, like a full day or a day and a half editing the living shit out of the animations on a short or like a reel or TikTok, like the shorter form stuff. And then I was like, all right, let's try this sort of more experimental approach to it. How can I give same amount of value, but let's cap it to like say 2 hours. What can I do within 2 hours? So then I just threw on like the screen recording software. I'll go over certain topics that were mentioned in the stream, and that stream was the stream's kind of like a smaller bet for me as well, because it's work I'm gonna be practicing anyway. I'm kind of just turning on the camera and talking shit. It's become a little bit more than that now, because I really like interacting with chat and just chatting, like talking with everyone and that kind of thing. But it's just like getting bits and pieces from that, questions that are asked from that. Okay, if I turn on the camera, how can I, people seem to like the style that I do. So I'm like, all right, how can I couple that with the questions that are asked in stream, but do it within 2 hours? And it was literally just like screen recording, showing me talk through, and I just came off the back of doing a couple of workshops as well. So like that, all this stuff was like fresh, explaining it to people, doing that. I was like, all right, yeah, I can knock this out in a couple of hours. I could probably like do maybe 3 or 4 in a day. And they perform just as well, and if not better, than the highly polished, highly produced sort of reels and shorts and that kind of thing, because the value is still there. The content is still decent and high enough value, I think, and it's getting the idea across just in a different way. Whereas I can sometimes have a tendency to think that the value I'm putting is like the time. I think it's like an unconscious thing. It doesn't logically make sense, but it's like an unconscious thing. It's like, I spent like 3 days on this video. It should produce more value for the viewer, not necessarily, and definitely not necessarily for the algorithm as well. So it's like, okay, what can I do within 2 hours? Small bet this shit up and churn out a bunch of different stuff. And it de-stressed me a heck of a lot as well. It's just like, oh, I'm going back to experimentation. I kind of got into a little bit of a rhythm there, which I want to consistently try and break out of. It's like, all right, let's try this thing. Let's see what other people are doing. Oh, that seems to be working. That's kind of interesting. All right, give that a shot. That doesn't look like it's going to take too long. Let's put my spin on it. Let's do this. Let's do that. Like, it's almost, you got to, like, it's a weird thing when you start making content, your way of thinking starts changing. You almost have like a content lens on a lot of things now. If someone asked you a question, if you weren't doing content, you just answer the question. But now someone asks me a question that hasn't been asked before, then I'll throw that in Notion or my notes, and I'll keep that in a database of all the things that people have asked me and just ideas that I have, and consistently always putting new ideas in this sort of backlog of things. And now I'm looking at it more of just like a bunch of small bets. Even how you're saying this now, how I'm going to put that frame on these things more and more, like the small bets, and then just doubling and tripling down on the things that work. Like, I want to see how I can do that in YouTube itself with those, like the proper videos, whether that's more like me just talking over a time lapse, or it's like me doing a kind of more look what I did, this is the things that help, this is versus like a full on edited extravaganza. It might not get as many views, but you never know either. I mean, in shorts, they're getting more views than my fully edited one, so who knows? But that's the thing, you don't know. So it's like trying different things that aren't going to take like 2 weeks to edit. And because that can really slow you down as well, because the momentum stops. And it's a momentum game, this stuff as well. It's a huge thing. And I think I said this before, like, I have sort of categories of types of content that I feel like in my mind what they are. There's ones like algorithm pleasers, just to keep the momentum up, that I still want to jam pack as much value as I can, but I might be a little bit more like time poor because of whatever's going on, and I'll just throw them out there. Then I've got like my keystone pieces of content that's like, yep, this is a thing that's like I spent a bunch of time on, and it's like I think it's the highest value. Like, that might be the sketch notes, and that might be the YouTube YouTube videos. So always thinking about what's my cornerstone, real like gold nugget kind of piece of content that like my younger self would absolutely love. Then you got this sort of periphery stuff where it's sort of there's like a slider up and down of the time that's put into it, and then the perceived value of how I think it's going to go. I think that perceived value, I don't know. Yeah, basically,
that's why it's called perceived value, right?
Yeah, exactly. I really don't know.
What you're talking about with having your keystone pieces of content and then having these things on the periphery, it reminds me a bit of what Google used to do with their employees. They used to have them be allowed to have 20% free time, and then 80% of whatever work they were assigned to do. So in that 20% free time, they could work on whatever project they wanted to.
Yeah.
And then some of those projects became to be like big Google products because they were just made out of, this might be a good idea.
Yeah.
But it was through that experimentation and having the freedom to be able to just work on something that might not feel relevant right now, but is like you're getting pulled to it for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listening to that more often versus just sticking to what works, because you can only do that for so long, or you can always come back to that. You don't have to stop doing what works, or what works. Like what works now might just be like, oh, I had no idea what actually works.
Yeah.
Like I was busting my ass trying to get this stuff done, and I could do it in like a 10th of the time and just have just as much impact. Like it's interesting.
Do you feel like you kind of needed to go through that expensive phase before you could kind of let it go?
Yeah. Because I've done it enough now, and now it's just like a lot of this stuff is an energy game. How much energy do I have in any one given day or week? Now I'm kind of like thinking in weeks now of, okay, I've got things kind of lined up content wise with myself, with other people. Then I've got projects lined up like with the course and things of that nature. It's like, okay, what can I get done? How do I keep this sort of machine going while still having fun with it? Because I think that comes through in the content. I still want to learn. Like the whole thing about this was sharing my journey. I still want to have that journey. I don't want to have the content take over everything, but it's a business, right? So how do I still have that journey and be interested in all these things, and then create the content and run the business and do the marketing and that kind of thing? It's just an energy game at this point. So if I can find ways to sort of 80-20 it, right, and like Pareto principle, like the whatever it is, the 20% of the work gets 80% of the results. Just trying to figure that out is super valuable. And as you said, I don't think I could have. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, all the most highly polished piece of content that's like took forever should do better. No, not always.
Sometimes I find if I'm polishing something too much, it's almost like I know that it isn't good, so I have to polish it.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you have an idea or a concept or a piece of art or whatever it is that you know is good, you kind of just want to get it out, like you need to get it out there.
Yeah.
You don't polish it.
Yeah.
So sometimes it can be a signal that maybe this isn't good, or maybe you shouldn't be polishing it in the first place.
I think there's a polishing where you get lost in it in a good way, where you start off with like a really solid idea and you're like, okay, cool. What's going to make this more, how can I more visually tell this story, or like this example, or this concept is the word I was trying to get to. How can I better describe that? And then you sort of go down a rabbit hole. Oh, this would be cool. Oh, okay. Then you do that. Oh, it might be a little bit better if like that kind of like polishing is cool versus like, oh, maybe we need to make this like animation wiggle a little bit more just to make it more aesthetically pleasing. And that it's just like, where's it's just like an effort and energy game. Where's the effort going? How is this actually could I have stopped 2 hours ago and gotten the same result from a value perspective of like the user that's going to be viewing this thing? I don't know. And there's no way to know that.
Yeah.
Unless you do an A/B test, which I'm kind of doing in a weird, like not a very good way, because it's not the exact same content. But the one I'm talking about is where I just drew an eye and just figured out like one way that I like to look at drawing the iris is to draw like a cylinder and think about the iris as the like end of the cylinder, and then how that sort of rotates around the sphere of the eye. And that's just really not easy, but it's a very visual thing that you can just show and then just like cut. And that did fantastic.
And that took you only a couple hours to put together.
Yeah. It was, but that was also something that came through the stream as well. That was kind of like being a, what's the word? Like a metal pole looking for lightning. What's that? Lightning rod. Like ideas, like trying to figure out where to get more ideas from and get it from other content creators as well. I reckon, yeah,
you need that reference and you need that inspiration. Usually I find if I don't have ideas, it means I'm not consuming enough content.
Yeah, you got to consume some as well. Like you got to sort of have your finger on the pulse of what's going on, which kind of sucks as well, because I'm not one to want to, like, if I didn't do this as a job and I didn't enjoy like the creation of the content, I wouldn't be posting anything, like I wouldn't be on probably social media at all. So it's kind of like that catch-22 of like, oh, I've got to wade through a lot of bullshit to like find those nuggets. But that's also the fun of it as well, because you can then start to figure out what you don't like.
Exactly.
Like what turns you completely off, and you're like, oh, note to self, never do that. At least for my taste. Other people might love it.
And you're wading through it because you know that it's bad, right? Otherwise you'd just be consuming it. So you have a taste. You know what you like, you know what you don't like. That's what's interesting about any person that's creating content. It's like everyone has a different taste.
That's it. And that's where you build that moat around you. You're creating that your own flavor of content. And that's your competitive advantage as well, which is very reassuring. It's like a nice reassuring thought of, okay, me just having my own way of doing things is a competitive advantage versus trying to find like certain features and sort of bits and pieces of like a product itself. It's like, I like doing it this way. People resonate with the way I talk about XYZ, fill in your niche. And the sky's the limit.
Do you think that works for everyone? Are there going to be people which are like, well, their voice isn't resonating with anyone?
Yeah, but then that comes down to you've got to almost have kind of an analytical brain with this stuff if you want to get anywhere with it. So it's like, you can just this is why the whole thing of, just keep consistent. It's like, cool, I can just like, even with drawing, I can just consistently draw a circle for like the rest of my life. Where does that get me? So you've got to kind of, and this is where the small bets comes in. Don't just stick to the one thing. Try a whole bunch of different stuff out. And that's where you can start discovering and finding things that you both like, and that's resonating with people as well. Because, without any experimentation, I never would have done sketch notes. Then I never would have sort of shown people trying to explain how I think about stuff. Never would have started the newsletter to show the resources that I like, because that's like a pretty low, not low effort, but it's like a lower risk kind of thing as well. Even the newsletter, putting together resources, I've just got to be conscious of what I'm watching. If it's valuable, save the link, write a note about it. So then I can go back and then write a little blurb and how it helped me out and blah, blah, blah. But and then it comes down to, are you enjoying making the content as well? That makes this whole process a lot easier, because you're almost like drawn to like try different stuff out. Because that was what I was talking about. I had like a pull to change. Like something's got to change. I've been doing the same for quite a while. And that's even where the plugin came in as well. It's like, all right, I want to try this different art style. I want to get a little bit more, and even like I'm doing traditional art now. Like I've done it in the past, but not for very long. So now I'm like playing around with gouache, and that kind of spurred on the idea for how can I do this in Photoshop, this kind of real blocky way of doing things. There's no good tools to do it. Let's figure out how to do that. And it's sort of like, you just got to want to try new shit.
Yeah, you need that curiosity, I guess.
Curiosity, that's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't turn that off.
Yeah. Yeah, you can cultivate it. Because I think if I threw myself when I started into like my work schedule now, I'd be way overwhelmed.
True.
And I'd be like, oh, fuck, how do you keep up with this? And it's just like, that's normal. You kind of acclimatize yourself to the level of curiosity that you've sort of got from creating stuff, I guess. But it's again, it's a momentum game. It's very easy to fall off, or like quote unquote fall off, or feel like you felt off. That might not even be true, but it might be like, oh, I missed a couple of posts, or like I missed 3 days in a row of when I said I was going to post, and it's like, ugh. So that's in that situation. That's when I would use one of those small bet kind of content pieces. Maybe it's just a story. Maybe it's just a sketch. Maybe it's just a tweet. Keep that momentum going. Again, if this is what you want to do, if you don't want to do this, maybe you don't. It's not for you, like as well. That's definitely an option.
Yeah, and there's only kind of one way to figure out if it is for you. Yeah, to kind of try it.
Yeah, but it helps if you're bloody curious about this stuff.
Would you say that the advice to be consistent should be made to maybe say be more consistently making small bets?
Yeah, and know that consistency looks different for different people. Some people post every day, and that's their consistency because they got a team around them, you know, and that's their consistency. For me, consistency is posting once every 3 or 4 days. Now, it might go up as I sort of start to build a team. It might go down as I have larger projects. It is what it is, right? Because there's reasons for me sort of pulling that back. But as long as I keep that momentum going, and it's even like now I've found out that I can make, or not even found out, but now I'm exploring and getting back to the small bets idea and that more exploratory way of doing pieces of content. I can even like batch do something. I can just like knock out a day potentially. If now I know that I can experiment doing these like 2-hour stints of like shorts that seem to be working on this one experiment that I ran. So a couple of them actually that have done decently, or just as good as the other higher produced ones. If I can knock that out, like 3, 4, 5 of them in a day, I can just have them as like rainy day pieces of content. So if I'm struggling, if I've got a bunch on that week, boom, that's the one that's going out. That's another one that's going out, and it goes out to everywhere. It goes Instagram, Shorts, and TikTok as well. That's something that I'm not as good at because I'm just used to Instagram, and it's such a habit now. Instagram's the one that I post to most consistently, and it is kind of there is friction to posting to Shorts. There's also friction to posting to TikTok as well, because there's kind of little tweaks that you've got to do. Shorts, they're only 60 seconds. You can't go over. Reels, you can go a little bit further, I think. And TikTok. So TikTok and Reels are kind of similar. Shorts, they need to sort of catch up a little bit with the old Instagram and TikTok there. But yeah, I don't know. I think I've gone off on all sorts of tangents, and I can't remember what my original talking point was. Consistency, I guess. Yes,
consistency.
Yeah. It's shit advice. Like, it's interesting. Like, what's his face? Rick Rubin. He's talking about like how advice is kind of bullshit as well. You've got to kind of figure it out. Most things out for yourself in a way. Like, advice is good up to a certain extent. This is only coming from my experience, with my particular taste, with my audience that I've been able to build at the moment, how I started at that particular point in time. If you copied what I did pixel for pixel, word for word now, would it work?
Who knows?
Who knows, right? I mean, so it's kind of like you got to put your own lens on stuff as well.
Yeah.
What you feel like you want to play around with. But yeah, just being curious with stuff as well. That's like a good, whatever it is, like yardstick, goalpost, whatever thing that you want to sort of put in there for that word, you know?
Yeah, you definitely have to, because it kind of keeps that enjoyment factor in there, or at least that kind of yearn to try stuff.
Yeah.
I think you need that just to keep going and find it interesting.
Yeah, because I was talking to a couple of guys, like we catch up each week, a bunch of sort of content creators that are in the space, in the art space, and there was that kind of concern that came up, which might come up for like a lot of content creators, is like, I don't want to alienate my audience necessarily if I want to try something different. Like in this case for me, there is a thought of like, I don't want to alienate alienate them. Excuse me. I don't want to alienate them if I want to try sculpting, or if I want to try traditional painting, or if I want to do a different style of digital. And then we started to talk about, well, maybe it's time to reframe. And this is why what I've tried to cultivate with my content is that it's my journey that you're following, not so much the thing that I'm doing. That's not the it is the forefront, but it's a gateway into my journey of what I'm working on. So you're following my journey. You're not following my how-tos. You're not following this is the way to do things. You're not following so strict, sort of like this is what Ben does. It's like, no, you're following Ben, right? Yuck, I just talked about myself in the first person. But you're following me and my journey versus one particular way of doing things. So I think, and that builds an even stronger moat around you as a content creator, because then you can kind of do whatever the fuck you want. And if you're engaging and you sort of start to think about this as a game and you've got good content out there, it's sort of game on.
I think it's funny because we've often talked about how we're worried about being pigeonholed, in whatever circumstance we're in, whether it's other people pigeonholing us or, we're being in a job and then only being asked to do one certain thing.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, like you're talking about there, you're almost pigeonholing yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because you're so worried about the perceptions of others or, sticking to a brand or whatever.
Yeah.
You can kind of just...
But sometimes the numbers will reflect the change as well. It's not like a made up thing. It legit, sometimes your audience is like, what? Now you're doing this thing? I think there's, how I'm trying to set it up is when I'm interested in something, I want to almost have a transition period of me trying it out. So if I was doing sculpting, I might show how, if I'm doing like a 2D drawing, how I would translate that 2D drawing. I'll do that 2D drawing first, and then I'll translate it into 3D, and then how I can use that 3D model to then help with my 2D. So I'm trying to blend the two, which then can almost also create potential customers for a future product as well. Blending the two worlds, getting them interested in things that you're interested in. And so it's, but mind you, this is the thing, but you've also got YouTubers at the same time that will just learn random shit.
Yeah.
And they're huge.
I think the key thing is just posting interesting stuff. Because do you know Levels.io?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he does all these he runs all these software as a service companies that are super quick to make and make a lot of money. So it makes a lot of money. And he had a tweet go viral, I think, the other day where he was basically saying, I basically have no anxiety or depression anymore after I started to go to the gym and eat clean food.
I saw this tweet.
Yeah, and then he listed all the the exact food that he ate and the gym routine, and he got so much traction on that.
Yeah,
just so randomly.
Yeah,
he was just posting something interesting.
Yeah,
and you could imagine him being, if he was someone that was worried about being pigeonholed or people going to unfollow me because I started talking about gym and food.
Yeah,
when I usually talk about tech and making software. Maybe they would, or maybe it'll just blow up, or maybe, and then you can kind of post content that's more of the content that you just want to put out there, and it might just be okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out with a bloody fitness SaaS
product. That might be next.
That's the thing. Twitter's a small bets platform, I think. That was a low risk kind of thing. I love health, fitness, and all that sort of stuff. Would I go and create an Instagram post of me flexing in the mirror and showing you all my macros and all the probably not, but
that would be a small bet.
That would be a huge bet. That would be oh. No, but I might talk about, okay, I've had this idea of doing a challenge where it's okay, I believe the food that you eat and the exercise that you do is going to make you a better artist because you have bandwidth to be more creative, right? So maybe there's a challenge or a stream where we actually do a chest workout at home, and then we understand the anatomy and we try and draw the anatomy of the muscle groups that we just worked out, or we're going to draw them first So it's like kind of melding it into your audience kind of as well. Like,
but what I like about that, even just you describing it now, is that it's very Ben. No one else could do that.
Yeah.
But I feel like your followers,
but
it wouldn't like be them.
Yeah.
Or maybe there would be another Ben that would do
Yeah.
that. But it's very you, and I do feel like there would be your true fans who would be just super into it.
Yeah.
And it'd be pretty cool.
It'd be I wanted to call it like Anatta us. So instead of Anatta me, it's Anatta us. So we're gonna so we need to do like 10 push-ups every like half hour. And we're going to work on the pecs. How are we drawing the pecs? Okay, so then they insert here and da 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 da. And it's kind of like just weird shit. Having fun with it.
It's fun, right? It's just fun.
Weird shit, like. But also, it's not lost on me that I've also got a benefit of already having people that seem to like just me doing stuff just because of me at the same time. Right? Like, it sounds weird to say, but it's like sort of what I've been seeing with the streams. I'm not the best artist in the world, but people stick around, whether it's just what I'm talking about, how I talk about stuff, funny bits and pieces. Like we've got like inside jokes in the stream as well. Like, it's kind of it's interesting, but it's weird to say. But that's kind of what I've noticed. So it's like I do have that leeway as well to like experiment, but I think setting that up from the get-go, that this isn't just like how to draw. It's just like, it's me. What's up? And I think that's also part of me not putting on a facade, whether it be through this podcast or through the YouTube videos or stream or anything. I'll fucking swear. I'll give you my real thoughts on whatever. And I think that also gives you freedom as well, both internally, and it just feels good, but also, it gives you freedom to like, oh, okay, Ben's doing weird shit now. I'll either want to watch it or not. You know what I mean? If not, worst case, I'm getting better at anatomy and I got a nice chest pump. For me, whatever. If the views go to 0, it's like, all right, it's win-win. But yeah, it's like, but also, as I was talking about before, thinking like that, thinking about content ideas without doing the content. You don't get these ideas without starting the stream. You don't have that kind of thing without putting out anatomy posts on Instagram that do well. I might not have had that spark to go and think about doing whatever. So yeah, there is no like, this is where this is more of like a conversation. Like this whole make now think later is like, this is why I love it, because it's more of a conversation. Our views and ideas are going to change over time with stuff. And the more and more I'm sort of doing it, the more and more I realize like there's no one, like I already sort of figured that in the beginning of doing this, but there's no one right way of doing any of this shit. But there's some sort of key principles that you can kind of work to get started. But I do know for a fact, if you don't start, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, you need to actually do the experimentation, right?
Yeah. So that's why I like where we're talking about the exploration, that sort of insatiable thirst for knowledge or experiences or whatever in content. It's, or
just a feeling to make a concept real, or just to be like, this is a cool idea. I think that real.
You get into the habit of when you finish one, you're like, oh, this is what it feels like to finish a thing. On this, again, small bets. That's like the benefit of it. You get that feeling, and it's almost like a little dopamine hit. I've finished it. Not even when you post it, not the likes, not the whatever. You finish the thing. Sick. Okay. Now when you start to creep up to that sort of almost finishing something, and when your little procrastination brain pops in, and the little like thing that says, oh, just put it down, we'll do it tomorrow. No, that dopamine will start to kick in. Like, no, we're gonna get to the finish line of this one, and then you've done another one, and then that's where momentum hits in, and you're off to the races, sort of thing, and then you're hooked. I feel like we're shilling like a drug, like dopamine is like do this because it feels good. I swear it's fantastic for you.
I feel that too when I make something or I put something out. Oh, I finished something. Yeah, that's good, and then you just keep getting better, and you just keep doing it, and see where it takes you.
That's it, man. What do you reckon? We go to? Oh, we got some people in chat.
Yeah, let's go to the chat section.
Yep.
All right.
Alice, good to see you.
Alice.
John, how are we doing? You're probably not still around because I didn't see when you guys have popped in or not. So good to see you. Chalkboard, Duncan. So sorry, Alice. I appreciate you, Alice.
Appreciate you too, Alice. Always appreciate your support.
Means a lot.
Yeah.
Duncan, good to see you. Awesome, you're going to implement it into your mural business. Yeah, that'll be interesting, man. The small bets of a mural business. I wonder, is it doing it on a canvas?
What is a mural? Like painting murals for?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've
heard stories of people just doing it, just asking and doing it. Like I
think he's already doing it.
Oh, he's already doing it.
I wonder it's from like the marketing side or the content side of things. It could be. I wonder. Tell us if you're still here, Duncan. It'd be interesting to see. We got the Photoshop plugin. We mentioned it earlier. It's called Filthy.
Fill,
Fillthy. I love it.
It's filthy.
Them colors are filthy.
I'll paste it in the chat.
There you go. Prathav, when did you first know that it was time to make a course which you could sell? Like me as a part of the audience was ecstatic when you announced about the course, but when did you decide to do so? Do you think you should start monetizing when you hit a particular amount of following, or even a small but very engaged, enthusiastic audience? That's a fantastic question. Yeah. I'm going to say, I don't know. It's going to be different for everyone. Yeah. I think I could have done it earlier.
Yeah, I think you could. It's probably always going to be earlier than you think.
Yes, I think so. But we did have that idea of as soon as someone, what's that meme?
Yeah,
shut up and take my money.
Yeah,
that's like you've almost waited too long.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah, you probably.
It's like
too long.
It's that small bet percentage of how the chances of it succeeding is like, okay,
yeah,
it's just increased dramatically because people were actually asking for something. So that was really a cue for me. But yeah, I didn't know because I remember like the night before, I was still stressing about it. Like, fuck, is anyone going to even care? Like, is this like, you're nervous because you're like, I've never done this before.
And keep in mind, this is when you had like 100,000 followers already.
Yeah, I was up to 170,000 followers. It's fucking crazy. And I was just like, I don't know. How does this work? I knew I was going to get some, right? I wasn't naive, but you didn't know if this was going to be a sustainable thing. And that was kind of like my medium-sized bet of, okay, let's try it out. And there's nothing, I don't think there's ever unless you put out a shit product, there's never a detriment to putting something out.
Even with a crappy product, I don't think it's too bad unless you're really burning bridges. But even like someone, you can always teach someone.
Yeah. Like if it is an education product, and you get used to getting feedback as well.
Yes.
And you could even, before selling an online product, because what I did do was actually people started to get me in to their organizations, like whether it be like a game company or like entertainment company, and they were just like, talk to our art department about how you do stuff. I'm like, oh fuck, all right, I've never done this before. So that was a good idea of, they're paying me to do this. That kind of validates. That's like just that extra little bit of validation as well. So I was like, okay. And then my sort of business brain started to kick in more and more. And then we were going back and forth about content and sort of building content and then building a business around it. I was like, all right, it really came down to it. Time to put my buddy big boy pants on and we'd make a business out of this thing. Let's figure it out. And it was kind of in a somewhat short order that I was just like a couple of...
Yeah, you had that meeting with some guy who gave you the idea of just packaging up your sketch notes. And I think that made it much more realizable in your head.
Yeah. Although that's not what I did. It was just like, okay, how can I... That's what I was thinking of in the beginning. Yeah. But then I started to perfectionize it. And I was like, it needs to be a little bit more. It needs to be a little bit more. And I'm glad I did that because it would have been the fastest way to market. But I'm glad that I went further with it and it wasn't just sort of packaging sketch notes. It's like an actual thing that people were getting some value out of, which is great. So yeah, I think you've also got to be your own judge of what like a good product is, and a good product at the moment to yourself is going to be what a good product is to you at this point in time. In 6 years' time, in 2 years' time, in like 6 months' time, the product that I got now, I might look at it and be like, oh, I could have done so much more with it. I could have changed it and done this and this and this. And that's your opportunity to then make another.
Yep. On to the next one.
Increase it.
Yep.
And if you get terrible reviews on it, I'm just thinking worst case, that's where my brain goes. It's a character flaw of mine. But if you get terrible reviews, delete it, refund people.
Yeah, you can always do that.
Always do that. And then it's like it never happened. You know? And then you get better and then you learn. And then you go put out the next thing. And that's just from the education side of things, but that's with anything. Just because something went wrong doesn't mean you stop.
Yeah.
You know?
You might have done everything right and might still go wrong.
Yeah.
There's no way to know.
Exactly. But yeah, Prathav, there's no right or wrong answer for that. You've really got to like sort of think about, try and think as objectively as you can about your own work, if that makes sense.
I mean, you can even, I think you can even just do it if you don't have an audience, or if you feel like you have something good to share, just you can do the product first if you want. Yeah. And then you can find the audience to sell it to. Like, it just feel kind of like, what are you most motivated to do? What do you feel like doing? I think.
Even like the idea of doing it for your younger self.
Yeah.
That's really valuable to get started. It's like, all right, me a year ago, what did I really want to know? And what are those key turning points that I've come to in this like year that's sort of gotten me to where I'm at the moment? Start writing those down. Does that feel like I can help people with that? And then you can small bets it with a tweet. You can small bets it with a piece of content. Then you can start to have a look. Oh, what one did well? What one resonated? Cool. That could be a potential product. And then you can sort of start that cycle of doing those small bets in the sort of content side as well. To sort of reduce that risk of people not doing it anymore. But yeah, unfortunately, Prathav, there's no like at 10,000 followers you should do it. At 20,000, I think get practicing.
Unfortunately and fortunately, it means you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Get off of this one right now and create that product. There you go. But also, if you don't want it, you fucking don't want it. Don't do it. Exactly. It's fine. Duncan, cool. So what you're trying to implement, not to do $10,000 worth of work for $2,000. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Pick better clients.
Yeah.
Charge more.
Yep. That's the thing. That is really a good thing when it comes to service based. The clients. It's you got same thing that you're doing. Two different people are going to value it very differently.
Yes.
Or have perceived value of it very differently. The best clients are the ones that don't haggle, don't penny pinch you. They're just like, yeah, cool. What is it? How much? And that gives me anxiety though as well, because I'm like, oh fuck, am I going to undercharge myself? Am I overcharging myself? I don't know. So that's like a whole other thing that I haven't figured out. But you almost like, if they one thing I've like a kind of rule of thumb is if they like are too eager to be like, yeah, no worries, you're like, fuck. too little. You almost want to have a little bit of that. Oh, yeah, okay. Like I don't know, but that's just me. I don't.
What you should do is just like start writing the number on a piece of paper, one, and just keep adding zeros until they leave the room.
You just do like half a zero, and you're like, smiley face. Duncan, great name, much better. All good, man.
Yeah.
Glad you could pop by. Yeah, looking forward to seeing what you think of it. Zach Retz removes all his products when he thinks they're outdated. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Really not a bad idea at all. Nothing wrong with that. I would do the same. Like if I start getting courses, like I've got a bunch of ideas for courses, I'll probably sunset the stylized course, or I'll utilize that as like a bundle.
Yeah.
Something to go along, like, if you get this within the next like 2 days, 48 hours, and you get a whole 8-hour tutorial with blah, blah, blah in there as well. So it's like you can utilize your old stuff as well, I think.
Yeah.
I actually talk to Zach. I'm just trying to think. Is there anything? Should I? Maybe not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know him well enough to, like, if I could talk about what he's doing. But yeah, he did a small bet. I'll put it that way, and it was cool. It was like a cool little experiment. So yeah, Prathav. Nah, no worries. Awesome, man. So you started to post. I'm gonna figure out a way to make money like you guys. Hell yeah, man. Yeah. Well, look, it's doable. It's just gotta keep at it, keep that momentum, because if you're not posting, you're not building that audience around you, which I think is going to be more valuable than ever. For artists in the next 5 to 10 years. You need to start putting yourself out there more alongside your art. Not education wise necessarily, it's not for everyone. But it's like, how do you start understanding narrative, telling your story, your experiences, yourself, your personality, right?
And I think something to consider is that you have to think about what you're really in the top 1% of. You know, there is something. I'm sure there's something for you, Prathav. Like, I'm sure, and like for Ben, he's probably top 1% of artists who can explain stuff, who can create content, who can, you know, whatever.
Yeah, that enjoys it.
That enjoys
right? Doing the video editing and stuff.
So it's like
there's like a Venn diagram of all those things. And you've got your own, and as you're developing, you could cultivate that Venn diagram can become bigger. And bigger and bigger, and then you start building your moat. Like, there might not be much of a Venn diagram at the moment, but you're not going to create that without doing stuff. So it's awesome to hear that you've started to get
doing is the hardest part. Getting started, hardest part, and you'll probably have to get started again and again, like I have.
Yeah, as I've said many times, like I've got a YouTube video sitting on some hard drive somewhere that I did 10 years ago that never saw the light of day because I was like, it wasn't good enough. I'll finish it up tomorrow. 10 years later.
It's still time.
Yeah. Well, look, I did my first one, a month ago. So, a question from Duncan about Instagram. You don't use a smartphone, only post on Insta via PC and get zero traction. Is there any point in doing posts if no one is checking you out, do you reckon? Well, it comes down to I've said this before, but you've got a benefit at the moment to not having an audience or people that are watching you, because you can experiment very freely without having any feelings of, what if like this thing worked and this is only what people like of me. You can experiment like crazy. Like, you can go and do like time lapses of your murals. You could sort of talk about your like, even if you're not looking to do education stuff, it's just like interesting to see the behind the process of things. Like, I look at artists that aren't educational, but they show, particularly sculptors. There was this one guy, I can't remember, he's an Aussie bloke, but Joe Rogan has some of his sculptures, and I saw him, I think it was last night or this morning, and he was just showing the behind the scenes of that, and I just sat and watched all of his stuff, you know, and he's selling his art. He's not selling the how-to of it, but seeing the behind the scenes of things could be a cool way to do it. Even if you're not getting any traction at the moment, throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Because if you keep posting the same things over and over and over again and nothing's working, it's like, okay, now it's time to change it up. Maybe we try video. Maybe because you said that you don't have a smartphone, so that does make it a little bit tricky. Did you say you don't have one or you don't use one? If you use one, or you can get a hold of one, doing a couple of 60-second reels of sorts or shorts could be a cool way to do it. Even just setting up, even if you have a proper camera, set it up in the background, do a time lapse, or just do like a before and after sort of thing. So there's definitely I started off with no one looking at my stuff. So that's the only way that you're going to get people.
And you'll build your content goldmine. So when you start to get that traction, people will be like, oh, you have a lot of stuff. You've been posting consistently. They have something to binge. They want to binge your stuff.
Yeah.
So there's kind of very little downside, I think, to just posting.
Yeah, because that's a very good point. Posting to no one, you're still building up that like gold mine of content that people can see. Oh, they're active. They're doing stuff. Oh, I like this one. Like I'm starting to see people go back through older posts of mine now, even on Instagram, of stuff that I did ages ago, and they're like copying it and stuff like the stuff that was like a year and a half ago, that didn't get nearly the amount of traction that it did now. So you're kind of building up that library,
and even just getting used to the skill of posting. I think because
it is a skill.
Yeah.
Oh no, we can't. You don't have to show your face if you don't want to, Duncan. That as well.
I'm sure you have very beautiful hands.
There you go. You get another demographic. But yeah, no, please don't feel that it's hopeless. It's a game, like as I've said many times, I think of it as a game. Where you're starting at level 0 or level 1, whatever game you're playing.
Yep.
So there's benefits to getting the practice in, just like as you were learning art. You started off with a sketchbook, maybe.
Yeah,
there was nothing on that fun. Page. Yeah,
just did it because no one could pay you not to do it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Prathav, because I don't think my stuff looks good enough for Instagram, but I'm trying to get over that. Yeah, no, that's the that little resistance.
Oh yeah,
the little procrastination, the highly sophisticated procrastination person in your brain saying, "Oh, you're not good enough." It's no, just wait until you're good enough. Let's do another few studies, another few months, another few years.
You'll never be good enough,
and then you die, and then finally you're good enough, but you can't post. But the cool thing is you can utilize that even for yourself as a look back at where I started from, where I'm at the moment, and in 3 years' time, you can then use that content for like a shit hot piece of content to say, look where I started and look where I'm at now. Right?
And if someone looks back at your stuff and they can see how far you've come, that's like, wow, this guy knows how to learn.
Yeah.
This guy's good.
Yep.
I can learn a lot from this person.
And you can almost resonate with more people that way because there's going to be more people in that kind of transition phase, particularly because I'm gathering that you want to do more educational stuff. They're going to see, okay, this isn't just some like savant artist. You know what I mean? He actually is going through something that I'm going through at the moment. I'm even starting to think about that as well, showing some of my older stuff and showing, okay, this is where I was at and this is where I'm at now, particularly in the stylization kind of thing. Like I was very realism focused for a long time. And then transitioning to stylization was tricky. I went through that sort of hard slog of having that weird in between
ugly phase.
Yeah, it's but no, you think of that as a potential future benefit.
Absolutely.
And just as a journal for yourself even as well.
And some of the best teachers are those that have learned the skill later in life because they are able to explain it still.
Yep.
You know, if you learn it as a kid, it's just intuition. Yep. You can't explain it.
Yeah.
So being a bit older and going through that process, you will be very helpful for a lot of people, I think.
And even if you're helping people that are just a couple of steps behind you as well, it's going to be even fresher. So you can give them even more value because it's like, I was trying, and that's why, and then that starts the cycle. It sort of starts that lawnmower or that bloody chainsaw of just go, cool, we got the motor running. Now it pushes me to want to learn more and then share more. So then people are kind of following along the journey.
Everything is content.
And then there you go. But also you got to have a balance.
Yep.
Not everything is content.
Everything is content.
Oh, man. It reminds me of, what's that Lego movie? It's like, everything is awesome.
Yeah.
Everything is content. My pleasure, Duncan. It's great to have you in here. Appreciate you popping in, and hopefully we're of some help.
Yeah.
Again, this is just our experience. There's no right, there's no wrong. Just sharing what we're learning.
Any tips to keep in mind for character environment design posts for Prathav? Depends what you're trying to do with the post.
It comes down to the goal.
Yeah.
What are you looking to do with the post itself? If you're showing your study, show what you're studying. What's the, like, actually share what your goal is. I was trying to achieve this, and then try and achieve that. Did you think you achieved it? Didn't you? Why not? what would you have done different next time? That's all content to then put in the description, and even sketch on the carousel itself, or even talk about in a reel. Right? Don't underestimate showing you're working out.
Yeah.
And
see if you can put yourself in the mind of someone who's scrolling through Instagram. Why should they, if your goal is to get some traction on posts and to get people to like your posts or to share your posts, what would make you do that thing? Can you put yourself in their shoes, and then can you try to make your content be valuable in that way, or be shareable, or be interesting in that way?
That comes down to also, just like you would get reference for your art, get reference for your content as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last annoying question. Any advice to keep in mind to learn and post content simultaneously?
Ben keeps notes.
Yeah.
I
know.
Ben's very good at keeping notes. That's what I was saying.
There's a word for that. Like an obsessive
order. Digital order.
Digital order. Oh, take away the at the end of that. But yeah, kind of take notes, whether it's actually sketching things down. But you can, the way that I'm setting up my stuff is I'm using content to push me to learn.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be doing the same thing over and over again. I don't want my stuff to look the same all the time. I want to test things out. I want to try more blocky rendering. So I'm going to try more blocky rendering. Then I'm going to share if it worked or not. What worked? Why didn't it work? And it's kind of a nice cyclical thing. I'm learning because I want to learn, but the learning can be turned into content, and then I need more content, so I need to learn more. And then I want to learn more so I can create more content.
Yeah.
And then
very
and then you got the bloody content chainsaw. That's the way you go. I don't know what you're cutting down, but it's that would be my advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my last bit would be just to try to make it a habit, so that when you have an aha moment, to write it down.
Yes.
Take note of it, because that is the content.
Yep. Definitely. So like if you see something on YouTube, if you see something in a book, a PDF or whatever, just have a note. I call it like I've got each, I mean, we can go deep into this on another podcast, but just a high level. I've got sections in my note-taking thing. So I've got like health, art, coding, storytelling, whatever, right? Editing, all that kind of thing. And within each of those sections, I've got like a quick capture note. So it's like quick capture for storytelling, quick capture for video editing. So if I find something like, for example, I heard something really cool yesterday that Casey Neistat said on a podcast about storytelling. So I got that part, wrote it, got the link, throw it into quick capture, just like the quick capture note. It's not a feature. It's literally just a note that I've named quick capture, or a section in the note that's called quick capture. Throw it in there, write a little, give yourself some context, your future self some context. As to what it was about, why it was valuable, even timestamp. If you got the timestamp, even better. And then there it is. So then you're starting to create a pool of sort of things to come back to.
Making it very easy for your future self.
Yeah. So then it's not like I've talked about heavy lifts before. It's not so much of a heavy lift. You've already got the content there. Then it's just editing. If you do want to then do a newsletter, if you do want to do this or that, or you actually want to learn from it, you're making your own Google essentially of stuff that's just super valuable to yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a product that I put out. Learning for artists, or how I learn. I don't want to do like a how-to, but this is like how I do content and learn at the same time. This is my full note-taking thing. This is my system for doing blah, blah, blah.
Notion template.
That's
a small bet.
Yeah, it is. Although I don't know, I only use Notion I use Obsidian more so.
Oh, okay. Obsidian template.
Obsidian template, yeah. Yeah, I could do that actually. Yeah. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Prathap. Yeah, Prathap did. He's an OG.
Yep,
he's been around. He's absolute legend. And yeah, he was the one that asked about the podcast with the pricing. I think he's the one that pulled the numbers out of me.
Same guy.
All the sales numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's an old episode if you want to go have a look, Duncan, about the whole process of the launching the product, exactly what I did step by step, the sales numbers and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, thank you again, Prathav, for pulling that out of me.
Yeah,
awesome. Well, I reckon that kind of wraps it up.
Yeah,
giving you a bit of a weird editing job, sort of from the chat too.
I always cut the chat. I don't know if I should or shouldn't.
Yeah, that was some good stuff in the chat though.
That's true.
So maybe we just keep it. Maybe we just maybe we do a thing after, where it's like, and now we're going to cut to chat in the podcast.
Yeah, I can do that.
Oh yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Awesome, guys. Well, look, thank you for popping in. This was good fun. We've spanned a bunch of different topics. Cool. Yeah, flicking the link for Obsidian and Notion. Awesome. Sweet.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. And we'll see you in the next one.
That was Make Now, Think Later.
Make now, think later. Now make now and think later.
That's it. Gotcha.
See ya.